Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
Today we're venturing into some pretty thought-provoking territory. It's from Jorge Garapayer's book, AI by Sci-Fi.
Hmm?
Let's talk about artificial intelligence and watch Netflix.
Right. And specifically, that chapter, why you should not fear the Terminator, but should still be caution on artificial intelligence. We're also drawing a bit from a talk he gave.
Exactly. And our mission, as always, is to pull out the really valuable knowledge for you, give you those aha moments, but, without making your head spin.
What's fascinating here, I think, is the core argument Pyre sets up almost immediately.
Yeah.
Well, he creates this contrast, right,
Yeah.
between the big, flashy, movie-inspired fear, for, killer robots, the Terminator.
Stuff that grabs headlines.
Yeah, and then the more subtle but maybe more real and present dangers around how AI is actually being used right now. He's kind of suggesting our focus might be a bit off.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's tackle that Terminator idea first. The book, it talks about how those early movies, they really hammered on this fear of physical android-type robots, right?
Yeah.
The survival instincts and all that.
But then the story kind of shifted, didn't it, towards things like Skynet.
Right. Pure software. An AI with huge power, but not necessarily walking around in a metal skeleton.
And it's interesting, the book mentions an interview with the CEO of ChatGPT,
Oh, yeah.
where he basically questioned if AI even needs a physical body to be, well, powerful or dangerous.
That's a really crucial point, isn't it? The scary robot is one thing, but the real power now seems to be in the software, the algorithms.
Absolutely. Pyers mentions Garry Kasparov, the chess champion, playing against Deep Blue.
The famous matches.
Yeah. Deep Blue won, obviously, but it wasn't thinking like a human. It was just calculation. Immense processing power, crunching through moves, not really creative leaps or intuition.
Right. It was like brute force calculation, not strategy in the human sense. It makes me think, are we seeing something similar now? AI is incredibly good at specific things, analyzing data, writing text.
Super powerful in narrow domains.
Exactly. But it doesn't have that broad, adaptable understanding, that common sense we have.
That's a pretty good way to put it, I think.
Ah.
They're incredibly sophisticated tools, yes, but they don't have consciousness or goals like the Terminator.
And this is the key point from the chapter, right? That doesn't mean we just ignore AI.
Not at all. Pyers is very clear on that. He shifts pretty quickly to what he sees as the more immediate issue. Algorithms already making decisions that shape our lives. A lot.
And this is where it gets really interesting. He brings in Cathy O'Neill's idea.
The weapons of math destruction. Such a great phrase.
It really is, because it captures how these algorithms, even though they're just math, supposedly objective, they can actually cause real harm, real unfairness.
Precisely. Because they're baked into so many systems now. Getting a loan, applying for a job.
Right. Even what news you see.
Exactly. And Pyers gives a specific example, which is, frankly, a bit startling. Bots used in the 2022 Brazilian elections.
What were they doing?
Assessing candidate performance just by analyzing Twitter comments. It just highlights how AI can subtly, or maybe not so subtly, start shaping political debate, maybe even outcomes.
Wow, it's like this invisible layer influencing things. You're just scrolling, seeing what's trending.
And you don't necessarily know why it's trending or what AI's role was in pushing it.
The book also mentions Harari, right? Warning early in the Ukraine war that AI development risks might get ignored because of the immediate crisis.
Yeah, and also the point about China making AI a huge national priority, including things like AI-powered open prisons. It really shows the global scale and, well, the diverse, sometimes worrying applications.
It feels like there's this growing global sense, like you said, that we need to be really careful, which ties into another idea in the book from Stuart Russell.
Oh, the alien civilization analogy? That's a striking one.
An alien civilization. Okay, let's unpack that. My understanding from the book is his main worry isn't killer robots per se, but...
It's about control, isn't it?
Yeah. As AI gets more complex, maybe operates more autonomously. Like Skynet getting unbounded freedom. How do we make sure it doesn't end up doing things that harm us, even if unintentionally?
Exactly. Russell really questions how we define the goals we give AI. Because sometimes the objectives we think we're setting, they lead to unexpected negative results.
Like with social media algorithms.
That's a prime example used in the book. They're often designed just to maximize engagement, keep you clicking, keep you scrolling.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Pyers discusses Russell's argument that it's not just about showing you stuff you already like.
No, it's potentially more subtle, more manipulative than that.
The idea is the algorithm might actually be trying to change your preferences over time. Why?
To make you more predictable. Because predictable users are easier to show ads to, easier to keep engaged in certain ways.
And the book connects this to political extremism.
It points out that people with more extreme views often have more predictable online behavior patterns. So the algorithm, chasing predictability and engagement, might inadvertently amplify those extreme voices.
So you get punished by metrics, as Pyers calls it, a play on punished by rewards.
Yeah, it's a clever framing. Optimizing for the wrong thing, clicks, shares, whatever leads to these wider damaging societal effects, like polarization.
It's like the system accidentally feeds extremism because it fits the model, not because it's good information.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the algorithms themselves, but the book stresses another huge area for caution.
The data. The data they learn from.
Right, bias.
This is absolutely critical. Pyers lays out two main sources of problems: the algorithm's design and the data it's fed. And the book gives some pretty stark examples of data bias.
Yeah, they were quite disturbing, actually. The Google image search one for cabelo ruim, which is Portuguese for bad hair.
And it predominantly showed pictures of the black people. There's even a screenshot in the book, figure 1.
It just perfectly shows how existing societal biases get reflected, even amplified, by AI if the training data is skewed.
And the other example, during the Brazilian election again, the search term, onde nasceu o ladrão, where was the thief born?
And it temporarily linked to Lula da Silva's Wikipedia page.
Yeah. It shows how machine learning adapts based on what people are searching for and clicking on, and it can quickly pick up and spread harmful associations or misinformation.
Because the AI doesn't know it's misinformation, right? It doesn't understand truth or fairness.
Not at all. Its job is just to find patterns and correlations in the data. If the data reflects prejudice, the AI learns prejudice. It's just trying to get the right answer based on what it's seen.
Pyers gives credit to people like Cathy O'Neill and Amy Webb for really highlighting these social consequences.
And rightly so. It's crucial work.
Which brings us straight back to that classic AI principle: garbage in, garbage out.
Couldn't be clearer. The book really hammers home how vital the data sets are.
Because if the data's bad, the AI's decisions will be bad.
Exactly. If you train facial recognition mainly on pictures of one group of people, it's going to be less accurate, potentially unfair, for other groups. This isn't just theoretical. It affects real-world decisions. The knowledge the AI produces is only as good as its input.
So, looping back to social media again, that drive for engagement combined with potentially biased data.
It's a problematic mix. The book reiterates how just optimizing for clicks can end up amplifying anger, extremist views, basically pouring fuel on the fire of polarization.
Maybe even leading to real-world trouble.
It's a concern. Pyers quotes Russell again on how these content selection algorithms have the power to influence billions by subtly shifting what they prefer, often towards more predictable, extreme content.
So the math destruction isn't a bomb, it's this subtle manipulation of information.
That seems to be the argument. It's influencing opinions, maybe eroding trust, creating division, all through code optimizing for engagement metrics. But it's not just these big societal things. The book also talks about more mundane but still annoying AI errors.
Right. Not killer robots, but flight cancellations.
Yeah, the possibility of bots messing up airline schedules on a massive scale.
Yeah.
Or things maybe you've experienced, social media posts getting flagged wrongly.
Oh, yeah. The book mentions someone getting an Einstein quote flagged as fake news. I've had similar things happen. And YouTube blocking videos for mentioning COVID, even casually.
Right. So these aren't Skynet launching nukes, but they show that current AI is far from perfect. It makes mistakes that can have real consequences, from inconvenience to censorship.
Which underlines the risk of deploying this stuff too quickly, doesn't it? Especially in sensitive areas.
Absolutely, before it's really ready, properly tested.
And the book makes the point that bad early experiences really damage public trust, which is hard to win back.
Very hard. You already have some people wary of automation that rage against the machines feeling, even though AI is already all around us in less obvious ways, like recommendation engines or dating apps. These kinds of public failures just feed that fear.
It makes it harder to roll out AI that could actually be beneficial later on. Pyers then brings in the broken leg paradox.
Ah, yes. A good illustration of AI's limits.
Explain that again.
Well, the idea is an AI could predict you won't go to the cinema tonight if it knows you usually do, but it also knows you broke your leg today. It sees the correlation.
Okay.
But it doesn't understand pain or crutches or why a broken leg stops you. It just knows the pattern. Broken leg equals no cinema. It lacks that deeper, contextual, human understanding.
And the book applies this to online content. How?
By contrasting something like that harmless, misattributed Einstein quote with, say, sophisticated political disinformation designed to swing an election.
Ah, I see. The AI might struggle to tell the difference.
Exactly. It might flag the trivial quote, but miss the genuinely harmful fake news because it lacks the nuanced understanding of intent and context. One is noise, the other is potentially democracy damaging.
It really shows how hard content moderation is for algorithms, especially when people are actively trying to trick them.
It's a huge challenge. The book contrasts this with Kasparov playing Deep Blue again.
How so?
Well, Deep Blue was immune to Kasparov's psychological tactics. It just calculated. But content moderation AI is vulnerable to human deception in a way Deep Blue wasn't. It's a different kind of intelligence facing a different kind of problem.
Pattern matching versus understanding intent.
That's a good way to sum it up. The AI is great at finding patterns, but terrible at understanding human context, meaning, or deception. Finally, the chapter just briefly touches on the future. AGI, Artificial General Intelligence.
The dream or maybe nightmare of human-level AI, as opposed to the narrow AI we have now, which is good at specific tasks.
Right. And the book speculates we might end up with both coexisting, used for different things, kind of like the no free lunch idea in computing different designs are good for different tasks. Maybe echoing Moravec's paradox, too, what's easy for humans is hard for AI and vice versa.
But Pyers wraps up by coming back to the main point.
Yes, don't panic about the Terminator movie scenario. That's
Yeah.
likely misplaced fear.
But do be cautious and thoughtful about AI now, especially around disinformation, bias, and how it can be misused.
Precisely. So what does this all mean?
Well, it feels like the big takeaway is that the sci-fi image of the killer robot is kind of distracting us.
It overshadows the real issues.
Yeah. The actual concerns are here and now. They're embedded in the algorithms making decisions, the potential for spreading disinformation, the bias baked into the systems, these weapons of math destruction.
They aren't futuristic concepts. They're lines of code and data sets affecting lives today. It's not about malice in the machine necessarily, but about unintended consequences, flawed data, and sometimes, yes, deliberate misuse of the technology for manipulation.
So it really calls for us to be more critical consumers of information and maybe demand more transparency about how these systems work,
Absolutely. Understand the power, push for accountability.
which really does lead to a big question for all of us.
Indeed. This raises an important question. What responsibility do we all have, individuals, companies, society, in shaping how these incredibly powerful technologies are developed and used? How do we manage the risks while still getting the benefits?
That's the crucial question to grapple with. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive, exploring these ideas from AI by sci-fi.
We really encourage you, if this sparked your interest, to check out Jorge Garapayer's book. It's on Amazon and Google Books, and maybe look into some of the other thinkers mentioned, like O'Neill and Russell, to keep exploring this.
Definitely worthwhile. Thanks for listening.